Is that okay? And if it's not, we're live anyway. So is that good?
It's all good.
It's all good. I have a friend and her name's Kelly. And when I hear your voice now, I go, oh my goodness, you remind me of her. Where are you in the world?
I'm in the UK.
Yes, and that's where she's from. But you literally sound like her. I've got other friends from the UK, but you sound really similar. So when I heard your voice, I was like, what? That sounds like Kelly. I'm going to have to get her to listen to this because she'll just love hearing your voice too. Because she's an awesome woman. So I'm excited to get to know you today. I haven't met you before, and you know that's often the case, to be honest, on the decision table. And I do that on purpose because I think that there is always the opportunity for us to have a conversation with someone and be able to learn something from the other person. And I'm looking forward to seeing what I'm going to learn and maybe what others are going to learn from our conversation today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. How do you pronounce your name properly?
I was about to say the same with you.
Okay, so I don't want to get wrong.
But I'm so glad you said that. I think we're friends already. My name's Kiri Marie. So okay, Kiri, short, Marie, and then join them together. I hate being called Kiri. I always tell people off for saying to me Kiri, and I'm like, why do you call me this? My name's Kiri Marie. And here in Australia, they like to shorten everything, and your name being one of them. What about you? How do you say yours? And your last name's beautiful.
Hermione, and then my last name is Sihukai. But I realized when I was writing to you, and then I shortened it to Kiri, and then you wrote back and wrote Kiri Marie, and I was like, yes. Oh man, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I know how that feels. So that's why I was like, right, before I even attempt it, I'm gonna get this.
No, you're fine. And I love that. And the reason, because one day maybe I'll get over it in therapy or something. But when you shorten the name where I was born, and which was New Zealand, you actually say Kitty. So it's Kitty Marie. And as a young girl, I was teased. Yeah, kitty, 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 kitty. So yes, one day maybe I'll rewire to some other different pattern and I'll get over it. But in the meantime, I like being called Kiri Marie. Actually, to be honest, I never really went by Kiri Marie because it wasn't sort of, you just didn't do that. Like everyone just went to the shortened name, and I wasn't kind of who I am today. I wasn't that strong female that you see today. I was less that, and I was like, okay, that's obviously what you've got to do is have a shortened name. So that's why I kind of say it, and I say it from the beginning because, a lot of people otherwise end up saying it to you. And it gets awkward later.
It does, but the names are so important. Like a person's name is so valuable, and it for me, from like kind of how I believe in stuff, it just holds so much energy. So when you shorten a person's name, you're literally giving them a different energetic coding, right? That they might not have asked for, they might not want, they might not anything. So when you kind of laid the boundary, I was like, I got it. I was like, I hear you. I'm fine with it. But I don't mind being told. I'd rather someone told me. And sometimes like people go, what's my name? And I'm like, Hermione. And they're like, Hermione. And I'm like, Hermione. And they're like, Hermione. And I'm like, do you know what? Whatever. Because I can hear that you're not going to get it. And then you go, okay, fine.
And now you have like seriously set my head off because I'm dyslexic. And so I just hear all these things firing off. And now I'm like, oh my gosh. But I love the fact you're here. And I love the fact we're having conversations. And talk about conversations, I may have seen that you have a fair few conversations in your world. What is that? Why do you have conversations? Why do you interview so many people or be on interviews? What's that?
So at the moment I I'm on my local community radio, and so I interview people on there, and really the reason why I interview people is because I just want to share. I want more people to hear other people's stories. So other people's journeys, other people's lives. And I feel like the more we expose ourselves to different perspectives and the more we have kind of an understanding from someone else's point of view, the more it allows us to have kind of compassion and empathy for other people when we meet them. Because we can't go through everything ourselves, right? And we go through our own journey, but then you meet someone else who's walked a completely different path to you. And I find that fascinating anyway, and then just to listen and hear people talk about it, and then sometimes I forget why they're there, because I'm like, no, I just want to dig into you, and then I'm like, oh right, yeah, you came here to talk about, you know, your stuff, but I'm like, you are what I want to hear, you know. So for me, that's why I do that. And then why people interview me is just because I think that I have my life journey is quite interesting for people. I mean, I've lived it, so I don't find it as interesting, but normally if I'm talking to people and they kind of, you know, their eyes like pop open, I'm like, oh, okay, it's something that people need to hear. And I'm really, really spiritual. And so one of the things I remember, like, just as I'm still on my journey, but I just remember getting to a point and I was like, I don't want to talk about my past anymore. I was like, I'm over it. And then they were like kind of feel like my guides and stuff. And I was just, a message for me was, but you should honor it. And I was like, oh, come on, don't get me on that one. So now I feel like, okay, fine, I will open up. But I'm usually quite a closed person. So I'm like, no, I'll just answer the question and not give you any more. So I've learned to be like, okay, you would like to share. So this is why.
So you're either going to love me or hate me, because I am the opposite. I am an open person. I'm an open book. By the way, I've got an old story. I've had I've got so many stories to my world. And, you know, for a long time, I was the same. I kept it close. I didn't want to share, and I didn't think it was going to be beneficial by sharing. And, you know, often even in my world now, so many people have no idea about my story and things in my story. But if you ask me, I'm an open book, because I have learned, because I've learned that what I keep in the dark festers, what I bring out to the world, what I can, means that it doesn't have any power back there now, but it may give someone else some sort of power, some sort of, wow, if she's done that, I can do it too. Or what if she's done that? Maybe she's got some ways that I could learn about. What about you?
Yeah, no, when you've just mentioned that is, it's so important. I can feel when I'm holding things because I'm judging myself for them. So I'm like, I don't want to share this because I'm judging me. And I feel like you're then going to judge me, but not you personally, but whoever I'm talking to is going to judge me. You know what I mean? And so I'm just like, oh, and then there's other times where I'm quite open. And so if people ask me a direct question, I will just answer. And then I've learned over the years, I was like, oh, people don't like my answer. So I've learned to be I've learned to check in and be like, I don't want to answer that now. But secretly, there's a part of me that's like, you ask me a direct question, it's almost like I feel like I'm under oath. You ask me a direct question, I'll give the answer. So I've had to learn to be like, no, and that was a hard one, saying no a lot. But I just, there's so much power in our stories, but we don't realize because we live them, you know. And I go through my life every day. I'm in my life every single day, like all the time. I never get out of it. I understand why I do the things I do. I have a knowing about myself. So to keep saying, oh, I did this, and then people are like, wow, you're like, really? Is it still interesting? Okay, if you say so. So sometimes I forget that there's something in there for me, but it's just because it's so familiar to me. But for someone else, it's something, it can be inspirational, or it can be like, oh, I don't want to go down that path. Thanks for warning me. So either way, it can be it can be of value.
Oh, you've given me so many things to play with right now. And one of them is the judgment. Like you mentioned, I don't want to say that because I might judge myself and others might judge me. Don't you think that's part of our problem right now, is for us to have conversations, for us to have conversations where the world can listen in on, that there is this fear of judgment, but isn't it in the fact when we own it ourselves that we can stand strong in that and then be open to have a conversation around it, and maybe even we could learn from it. But I am sure there are others that go, because I don't know about you, but I have so many conversations with so many people from across the globe, and one of the things that has stood out, like number one, is, oh my goodness, thank you for creating a safe space that gave me permission to be me. It wasn't that hard. You know, it really wasn't. I just said, there is no judgment here. You can say what it is. I'm going to ask questions because I'm curious. And there's no judgment to your answers because I'm not looking for an answer. I'm curious to hear what your answer is, because then maybe I'll take it on. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll learn from it. Maybe I'll go, actually, I stand even stronger on my opinions, what I think. And I think that's an interesting thing, that when we create the space, give permission, all of a sudden, others actually don't judge you. They go, thank you. Thank you for giving me permission to be me. Why are we not doing that more then?
I think we don't know always how. Like there's I mean, I can use myself as a reference. When I was younger, if someone was talking to me, I mean, I'm straight away like, I'm going from head to toe on the external before and I've already judged you. You know what I mean? Like where your clothes from, what you look like, how you're speaking, what you sound like. And then as you start to even structure your sentences, I'm already, what education level are you? Like my brain was already analyzing, but that's all because I'm doing it to myself. It's not really because I'm judging you. It's all because they're the insecurities.
Is it,
that I have
or
on
are
me.
you really judging me? See, this is the thing that I think we are, if we're going into our conditioning, which then goes into biases, right? Why do you think before we even got a chance to say, hi, how are you? What's happening? Who are you? What do you do? Anything like that. I have gone and just pressed that live because I didn't want you to jump into biases. I didn't want you to think, oh, this is what she's going to want to hear. This is what she wants me to say. I want you to be you. I want to learn from what you see, your insights, your conversations, things that are important to you. Because how am I ever going to get other perspectives if I only just keep putting my biases in? If I go, oh, she's looking like that, that must mean she fits into this box. I don't know what you thought when you saw me, but usually people go, I've had many a different conversation where they go, wow, you look really casual to what I thought you would look. And then others go, wow, you look very different to what usually turns up in corporate. And, you know, others go, I love the fact you bring your whatever it is, disruptiveness, culture, who I am to the table. And I have a funny accent, so I am very much, depends what country I'm in, depends how thick that accent becomes even more so. You should hear when I hang out in Austin, Texas all the time. And it's like, whoa, I don't even know who I am or where I'm from.
Yeah, you can pick up what your surroundings, right, and kind of and blend in. I think coming back to what you asked, Kiri Marie, when you asked about kind of about judgment and people meeting each other, it's a lot to do, I understand it, with safety and security. You know, so a person wants to feel safe and secure, and in order to do that, they analyze their surroundings naturally. Who do I look like I'm going to connect with? Who am I going to get on with? And a lot of us have been taught to do that when we're younger based on externals and not tap in and check in with the energy. But when you check in with somebody's essence of who they are, you can find your people, and you stop worrying about this, you know. Like you just go, oh, that person's got such a great vibe. I want to just chill with you for a bit because you're on my level. And when you learn kind of how to read energy or move in that way, your barriers naturally, I find, they just come down a bit. You don't have to worry about feeling safe and secure because you can already feel it. But when you're going from the other parts of yourself, I think it's you automatically I just want to fit in. I just don't want to stand out. I don't know why we do this. Well, I do know, but as in, I don't think it's sensible.
Introvert. I'm seriously an introvert, and I don't want to stand out, but I do. And I don't want to be like, hey, what is it that you've got? Because it's different to the rest of them. I don't want to be that. I didn't want to be that for so many years, and I never owned it. And I was like the secret sauce behind lots of amazing leaders across the globe. I was okay with that. I was real good with it. But I realized that as I learned that my differences, my distinctions I bring to the table actually are my uniqueness and also kind of my secret sauce. And if I was not sharing it with the world and willing to, then I was actually being very selfish. And so I sort of had to learn skills. So I still, honestly, I'm married to someone who is very, very social. And I mean, really social. So sometimes it kills me. But he, it's all good. And anyone in my world knows that he's an extrovert. He loves being around people. And when I'm around him, I tend to be really quiet unless I'm beside someone who can speak like this, go deep. Like we didn't talk about the weather. We didn't go, like some of those basic things that most people are really good at asking.
I can't do them. I can't do them. Just skip the surface level. Let's get to the point. I want to know. Yes. I want to know what about you. Lay it on the table. Show me who you are. Yeah, I don't really, we can come back to the weather at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like once you show me who you are, I'm like, okay, yeah. So how's the weather? How's it going down here? Yeah. You know? Yes. But first of all, I do understand when you say about introvert. I mean, I have moments when I'm very introverted, and then there are moments when I can just be very extroverted because I know, like, oh, I'm going to a social setting, bring out social Hermione, let's go. And so if people meet me in a non-social setting and they catch me on when Hermione's Hermione, they they can walk past me in the street. I might know them and I would just keep on walking. Not because I don't like you, but because I'm so happy.
I thought that was just me.
And they literally are a bit like, or I would see them and I will hide almost because I don't want to talk. But it's not because it's nothing to do with them. It's just like, I don't want to talk. And then when I get home, I'm like, oh yes, home, just me and myself. I mean, I've got children, but it's like just me. And I like me, as in to spend time with me and to just be in like my world. And so there's a time when I have to be social and I can really be out there. So people think, oh, she's so social. And I'm like, I had to learn that. I really had to learn that and learn how to be able to switch between them, because sometimes I really needed to be with me, but I'm in a social environment and it wouldn't work, So I really had to learn how to come out and be like, oh, hey, let's go. How are you? What have you been up to? Oh, yeah, jokes and all of that. And then I get home and I'll be like, okay, just need to recharge. So yeah, you're not alone.
I'm just relating to everything you're saying there so much. But here's the thing, I think this is true, that why can't we just be us? Because you know what? Sometimes I am just me. When I'm with my husband and he's talking away at the table, I'm just listening because I'm not going to add any value, because I think everyone else can add value to this conversation. There's nothing like, genius. No, I shouldn't say that. That sounds really bad, but I don't even know how to say it. But it's like everyday conversation and everyone can do that. And they joke about the things that often I feel, why are you joking about that? Like I do all my life work to try to make sure that we're not talking like that about someone else, or, the jokes are really like on that edge and way down. If my husband are like way over that edge. And I'm like, I am never going to stop him from being him, but I don't need to join that conversation. But I love being with my husband. I love being social for other people because that's connection. But that doesn't mean that I want to talk at that table. And sometimes when you sit there, I feel like, so going back to that judgment moment, I feel like I'm being judged. That, oh, they're going to think I'm really like, I'm too good for them at the table. Or I'm not, I'm not smart because I've got nothing to add to the table. Or I don't know. I don't even know what I'm thinking in that moment. But sometimes those thoughts start coming in. And it's because it's not the normal at the table. And I wonder how we sort of narrow that gap from it being not okay for us to feel okay to be like that if we need to. And do we, or do we just have to put it on? Because here's the other side of it. And I'm questioning it today because literally yesterday I had a person who said, oh, I don't know that I want to be there. I don't know that I want to come. I don't know that like I'm going to be good company today. And yet what they really needed to be was there and to be a part of it. And it didn't matter if they didn't have anything to say, because all they wanted, like they needed the connection of the people at the table, but they didn't necessarily need to be the one saying it all, doing it all. I don't know. It's funny. I'm just questioning it at the moment, because particularly as you bring it up, because I think that, you know, it's easy just to not be you, because that might make other people uncomfortable. It might make me feel uncomfortable.
Sorry, I interrupted you there. What I was going to say
You're
is
fine.
like
You can do that.
there's a time when you get to when you're getting to know yourself and you start to understand what you need as a person to be your best version of yourself in that moment. And then you're really able to know when to say no to invites and when to say yes. Like before, I mean, when I was just big changes from like, say, my mid-20s until my mid-30s. I'm at 37 now, but those kind of like 10 years. So big changes where I'm
chicken.
Yeah, a lot of life work, like, and just really working on myself, and I just getting to know myself more and more, and kind of just letting go of things I just didn't need to hold on to anymore and just weren't serving me and stuff like that. And I started to realize that I started to just play little games with myself to try and find out more about myself. So everything everyone invited me to for a certain period of time, I just said yes. I was like, yeah, I'll come, and I just went along. And then I started to learn, like, okay, what do I actually like and what don't I like? Because I'm so used to before doing things to please the people around me, whatever. It's like, I need to know what Hermione actually likes. And then I'd go through the other phase and I'd just say no to everything. And then I'd see kind of the response on that side. And I'd be like, okay, so I can start to see who needs me for what I bring. And basically they're kind of using me and they might not have realized, and who actually values me around and can respect the fact that I've got boundaries and I don't. And so I just started to, you know what I mean? Like know my circle, know more about myself, and strip back what I didn't like, and then be like, right, I want new people in my circle. So when I go here, I'm looking for new people because I want to, you know, drop some other people that's not working for me, etc. And so it's kind of like that. And if you're talking about kind of, do we give ourselves permission to be it? I think sometimes we get so hung up in all of, you know, like there's kind of like a structure and a format to being social. Like when you meet someone, people do they do like you've got to make physical contact in some way, and then you need to ask how this person is, and and it's like, well, not all of us like making physical contact.
That's the bonus of COVID.
I oh my gosh, at the beginning I loved it. Everyone was like, oh, the pandemic. I was like, pandemic. I was like, I can't touch you. I'm so sorry.
Social distancing.
Yeah. Like, ooh, I mean, how long can I pull that one out for? But yeah, no. So I think just there's like an etiquette that we're meant to follow, which makes sense. I mean, we understand it because then we all know how to be. But I think it's okay to break that etiquette sometimes, you know, like you don't, well, I don't know how else we would communicate at the beginning if we didn't.
Well, here's the thing, we don't have rules here. We're communicating really good. I'm feeling like I'm understanding you. I feel like I've got to know you really well. Correct. Yes, we are already socialized, but here's the thing, we're not necessarily doing it exactly how you would when you have what they call interviews. That's why I like calling it a conversation, because I don't want an interview. I want a conversation. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know what's important to you. I want to hear what you're seeing on the ground, because I'm not you. I'm not in your world. And you may be seeing things that I'm not seeing. And you may have learned things that I could take on board that will be really beneficial in moving what I do forward as well. So I think, though, when we get stuck with this etiquette, and trust me, I get it. I've got a great friend of mine, and her whole business is built around etiquette. You know, she's done it at the White House. And I remember going to dinner with some friends of hers that were very, very high end. And I had to go to dinner. So here, and I was known at that time as a, what was I called? A butt kicker. So BUT, the butt kicker, right? And so it was kind of like, yeah, everyone knows Kira Marie's going to be like kicking your butt. And, you know, it was kind of funny because it was the without the two T's, just the one.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so I rock up, that's my normal world. And she's like full on into etiquette. And I was like, okay, whatever you do, just copy her. Do what she does. When she goes for her glass, go for your glass. When she talks, stop and watch when she stops talking to when she eats, repeat. Okay, good, got it. And that was literally what I did all night. I smashed it out. They loved me. And in fact, it was an amazing evening by the end of it. But I have to tell you, I knew there was etiquette at that table at that moment. Now I get to be at some amazing tables with some pretty full-on global leaders. But one of the things that I've loved is that many think that they have all these etiquettes and all these things. But if you actually get to hang out with them in their spaces, they are just like every other human. And I think sometimes we have put frameworks, we have put things that have served, and I always talk about the old approach, that I feel like this is part of that old approach, that there's some of this etiquette thing, this what is norm, like, okay, when you come to the table, you should look like everyone else. Everyone else is wearing suits. That must mean we need to wear suits. You know, we need to sound the same. Oh, do we go to the same schools, universities, whatever it is, right? The education side of it. Okay, so then we should be saying the same things. Are you getting the same results as I am? That is old school, old approach. And I feel there is such a need for a new approach, because otherwise we're going to keep doing things the same way. And I don't know about you, but one of the things I'm seeing through many of the conversations I'm having with leaders is there's a fair few problems happening across the globe right now. And one of the things that I think is one of those problems is that we keep doing it the way that we've always done it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of when you've touched on, mentioned about etiquette and people behaving a certain way, I think that was the old way of recognizing that you are like me. You know, so when I come to meet you and you're dressed in a suit and I'm dressed in a suit, yeah. So then we're like, okay, so you understand the suit dress, or you speak that language and I speak that language. So it was a way of us going, you're safe, I'm safe. Okay, we understand what we're doing, which means we're probably heading in this direction. And then we could have those conversations knowing that, oh yeah, you know, you're in my club and I'm in your club. I mean, how I see the world is very much like, if something, how do I say this? So you're talking about like the world has got problems. So for me, I see it like,
well, firstly, I was saying that the world has problems. Do you agree there's some problems in the world?
This is what I was going to touch on. Yes, there are definitely problems in the world. That's not a question. Right. But I was going to see, as in my personal world, what I try and do is I just try and look at everything like it's a mirror. So I see if I look out into my world and I feel someone's been mean to me, then I got to go back and look at where I'm mean to someone else, and where I'm mean to something else if it's not someone else. Wow. And so I really use everything like a mirror. So if I watch the news and I find something really triggers me, and I'll go in, like, I'm really spiritual, so I believe like in the whole, you know, reincarnation, past lives, like a whole soul journey type thing. So if I watch the news and something triggers me, then I'll be like, okay, maybe I could have done that in a past life to someone. Maybe I could have been the victim of it in a past life. Maybe I could have witnessed it. And then I'll go into myself and I'll just be like, okay, if I've done this, because I don't have a recall right now if I've done it. So I'll just sit there and I'll do forgiveness. I'll be asking for forgiveness from all the souls that, you know, any souls I've ever done this to across all my lifetimes. And I'll be doing it for anything that kind of comes up that I know I haven't done, like in this lifetime. Do you know what I mean? Like in this lifetime, I'm a mum, I've got 2 kids, I've got a dog, I've been divorced, you know, I'm working on myself, blah, blah, blah. I haven't been to prison. I haven't done some like certain things that just would shock me in this lifetime, but I know in past lives I've done these things, right? So when I'm triggered by these things and I'm like, okay, where is that in me? And I really believe, like, where is it in me, but not necessarily Hermione, but the soul part of me, like, where is that been on my journey? So that's how I see the world. So when there are a lot of problems and when there's a lot of stuff happening, they don't always set me off. Like, they don't always trigger me. They don't always, I'm like, okay, that's terrible. And I will send out a prayer and I'll do a blessing and I'll ask for good things for the people that are, impacted by it. But it doesn't always hurt me as such. In a way, I don't know how to explain it, because I'm impacted by it, because I feel empathy and I can cry about those things, because anything sad upsets me, but it's like I realize I'm not connected to it. And then there's other things that happen that are bad that I'm really connected to, even though I haven't experienced them. So it's just, for me, I kind of just go around looking like, if I treat all the world like a mirror of my inner world, then I can learn more about myself and I can shed as much extra, I'd say, weight, that old energy that I don't need. That's kind of my purpose. I don't know if I'm making sense right now. It's making sense to myself.
I'm literally listening, because I think there's a couple of curiosities I have from it. And I think, firstly, I get when we go into ourselves and that reflection. I think that's an interesting piece, and I can't see any harm from doing that. I see only benefit from doing that. But I also think that the problem when we go into ourselves all the time, is that we're not looking outside at others or how it's affecting. And this sort of is an interesting piece, because my whole work, and actually a book I'm writing right now, is called Humanity as Stakeholders. And I say it's the future of, to me, it's the future of the human race, but just to niche it down for everyone, I put it the future of leadership. And, it's literally meaning humanity, meaning you and I. Stakeholders, the measure of value that we place on. And I go, what if we made decisions every time we come to the table that we're going to add value to humanity going forward, not take away from? Imagine if everyone just did that, whether it's at the boardroom table, whether it's at the dinner table, whether it's at over a coffee, whether it's with a new partnership. We all just made decisions that were going to add value to the human race, not take away. Do you think that would change culture? And the answer is yes. Right? It really is. So here's the thing. When I just think about myself, then everything I reflect on about becomes quite insular, and it really does. So it doesn't mean that I'm connected to some of the decisions I'm making that may actually have an effect on someone else. And I think that this is the interesting piece, that I wonder, with doing what you do in that way, that you get very good at being a great person yourself. But I don't know about that disconnection between yourself and then those times when it's not that you're, and don't get me wrong, it's not like, oh, you're nasty because you're doing this. It's purely, I think, and I wonder if this is why some people are finding that disconnect when people have taken over the land, and now you're building things on what they feel was their land that was taken from them. And we don't understand that, because that wasn't us that it was taken from. And so there's a disconnect. And because of that, there's no ownership to see that this is not a problem going forward. We just kind of go, someone else's problem. This is my problem. This is what I got to do. And I wonder if that's what's happening with some of and I was just using that as an example, because yesterday here in Australia was Australia Day. And one of the things about Australia Day was it was such a celebration of Australians. And one of the things that it's becoming, and so it should be, is a realization that before the barbecues, before the white Aussies taking over, doing their thing, there were beautiful Indigenous people who roamed the land called Australia, and you know, all that sort of thing. And so it's become such a gap from what happened there to now people celebrating, and in lots of ways people are feeling you should be upset rather than celebrating. Isn't it? It's just an interesting concept, and so it's top of my mind because it was literally yesterday called Australia Day.
Yeah, I'm not Australian, so I will not comment on Australia. Like, I will not put my foot in it that way. No, I couldn't understand enough. I don't have enough. I mean, I've only visited Australia. Like, I do not have enough knowledge or think to kind of input in that side. But I can say from your comments, as in you were just sharing, if we focus too much on ourselves, you know, becoming insular, becoming disconnected, and that's when we go into, for me, like, it sounds like being selfish. So there's the balance of you go about your day. And if I'll just stick using myself as the example. So if I go about my day,
I love it. Yeah.
and I notice that people are, there's things happening around me and it's like, I'm upset by it or I'm triggered by it. I personally, because I believe that we're all connected, and I believe that what I do here has an impact on someone however far away. So I work on trying to be a better person all the time, because I don't want to know that something I've done here has hurt somebody else sitting however many countries away across the world, right? So I work on myself. No, I'm not perfect, not even close, right? But I'm like conscious that something I do has an impact, right? So I make sure I take the time. If I see somebody, like, I've seen couples arguing on the train, and you know how you might turn your head because this is like a full-on argument, and then it gets a little bit interesting. So then you're now engaged. At the same time,
you're turning your head to, like,
to listen a bit more. You know, you want to watch. But I'm like, I just automatically, because I've done so much work on myself, and I've had to bring up so much of my own stuff, that when I see somebody feeling a pain that I recognize, I straight away have to ask for them for love. I'm like, you know, the creator, I was like, come in, like, please bless them with love and communication and peace and happiness, because that pain, I'm familiar with it. So I can, like, understand that person is just inside, just, and they just, you know, when you're feeling so much pain, you're trying to get your words out, but your words don't come out. So instead it's like insults, or it's like, it's fast speaking, or it's loud, whatever it is. And I kind of am familiar with certain patterns. So I always am going around my day sending out blessings for people, because I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if I knew that somebody walked past me in the street, saw I was a bit sad, and said, oh, do you know what, that lady looks a bit sad, give her some, you know, an extra bit of love today. So I try and do that for the people.
I love that.
And then, I mean, I just think of us connected, you know? So I just think, if, you know, you might be having a rubbish day, wouldn't it be nice to know that somebody just sent you a good thing, instead of looking at you and calling you a name, or thinking, oh, you think you're better, or whatever abuse they want to holler. Instead, they were just wishing you well, you know? And then, yeah, when I come home, like at the end of my day, if I've been out, or if it's that during the day, I take notes of things that set me off a little bit, or where if I can catch myself where I was like, oh, I did a bit of judgment there, like, oh, you know. And then at some point at the end of my day, I'll just reflect, and I'll go through and I'll be like, okay, what was that really about? Why did what that person said to me, why did I react in that way? Why did I respond in that way? Why did it play on my mind and just go over? And like, what was it about that? So kind of my purpose is to remember that I'm connected, but at the same time, be a better person in that connection. So I wouldn't say it's not even close to a balance, but I kind of work towards remembering that there's two sides, because I've done what you said. I've gone so insular where I'm like, that's not my problem. And then I'm like, oh, I am part of this world though. But there was a point where I did.
And that's the piece that worries me about that, right? Is you are part of a world. And I love what you're saying there, because I think that sort of segues into how that becomes, hey, I am part of the world. And I love the fact that, you know, as you walk past someone that maybe is looking sad, you send them a blessing, or, you know, you give them extra love today, or what a cool concept. It's beautiful. Here's the thing: is this what you mean by humanity, and what does humanity mean to you? Because I know I quickly looked up on your profile because I was like, oh yeah, what's a couple of things that we could be like putting on the banner across the ground, the bottom, or into the comments. And like, I literally don't go and look because I don't want to know too much, but I just look for keywords, and I saw humanity on there, and I was like, yes. What does that mean though for you?
Humanity for me, and why I feel like I'm here to help, is as in just in consciousness and stuff, is just humanity is it's so much deeper for me. It's all of us as humans. So I feel like one of my jobs is to be the very best version of myself, which means I've got to find my prejudices. I've got to find where I put people in boxes. I've got to find where I judge people. I've got to find where I'm racist. I've got to find where I'm sexist and where I'm all the other isms and everything else. Like, I've got to find where I have those, even if I think I don't. Like, even I'm not like that, and then I might see someone be like, oh, there, and it's like, oh, yeah, you do have something. So I feel like my job is to find those. And I've noticed just from the people around is that I'm so spiritual. Like, I'm so into raising my vibration and elevating consciousness and really changing that. And there's not as many people that are doing the same work, because sometimes if I get really stuck in my work, there's a really small number of people I can call and say, I'm having this experience right now. It's really tough. I just sound like I'm off my rocker, like cuckoo, like lost it. And there's not that many people that can relate, like when I'm really in the thick of it, and I kind of have to dig myself out, because there is not a massive support system. But when you're doing something that a lot of people are doing, you can call up your mate and be like, oh, I just lost my boyfriend, or I just lost my girlfriend, or because everyone can relate. But once you start going really deep, it becomes different. And I have natural gifts that I've developed and worked on to make stronger. And sometimes I'm called to be like, to send out like good messages, or send out like a good healing for people today, or just do this thing. So for me, humanity it's about this one consciousness that we're all a part of. And then there's heavy negative energy in it, and it hurts people. You literally are just seeing people destroyed and hurt. And as you work on yourself, you realize that look that you can give someone, that just that small little can have a whole impact on their life, and you didn't realize. And as I've cleared, like go through my layers, right? Stuff is always coming up. It's like this is going to be going until I die. But as I clear through, and I would have a bad day, and I'd be like, did someone send me something today? And I'm like, oh, can you just take off any jealousy or envy that's come my way? And then I'll feel like it's just a shift in my energy, and I'll be like, really? And then I think, where did I go today? Oh, I went to the supermarket and I worked from home. So someone in the supermarket had a problem with me today. Really? I was going in to get my groceries, to pay, to come out. But somewhere along that line, someone just saw me and I did something that's just set them off, right? So that small look you do. And so for me, humanity is like, it's just the whole consciousness that we're all in, and we all contribute to it. And some of us are taking from it by doing negative things. We're all doing, like, I can't say we all, because I haven't met everyone on this planet. A lot of us are doing negative things, me, myself included. And then some of us are doing positive things to put back into it. But I feel like if we don't work on ourselves, if everybody worked on themselves, then we would just we would become kinder to other people. When you meet someone, they're in a bad mood, you start to think maybe they're going through something. Not just they're a rude person, but wow, maybe something has gone on in their life today and they just can't control their emotions today enough when they're in a social space. Like, maybe just give them space and love instead. It doesn't work all the time, because then we have our own stuff going on, right? So we have two people coming together. But I really, really believe that we all contribute. And it's the smallest thing that we can do that can have the biggest difference, like just massive. And it's really small things. I don't know if it go all the way down to Australia, but there was this movement at one point of like, just smile at a stranger. just smile at us.
No.
Like it was like a thing. Like they had it as a thing, like, because you could really make someone's day, just smile. Because it came from something really serious. I think there was a point where there was a lot of people that were having a really hard day, really had a lot of mental health issues going on. Some were even contemplating suicide, and they were like, someone just spoke to me today and just gave me a smile, and I felt like I wasn't alone. You know, and then people were like, okay, so then it became a thing, like, it was like, all right, guys, just keep smiling, people, just in case. You don't know if they're having a bad day, just, you know, smile. Yeah. So it was important, but it was something as small as that you wouldn't have thought, because you might be in your own world, like, I'm busy, I'm trying to get from A to B, I've got an appointment, I've got a client, whatever, and just your smile could have made someone feel like they weren't insignificant. So I think we all, humanity to me is everyone, and all of us contributing, and just maybe even the smallest little bit away. Like, you don't have to be someone who, maybe you don't want to in this lifetime work on yourself, it's fine, but maybe just be a little bit kinder when you buy your coffee and say thank you, you know, like, or maybe a please, or just, you know, open the door for someone, or I know, just the tiniest thing, but it will have a knock on positively. Like the same way when we do a negative thing, it has a knock on, but in a negative
domino effect, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so if we think of business, let's switch it just to that for a second.
Yep.
And we think of business, and you talked about it before, about being sort of certain in an uncertain world. And how can have you got any tips or any thoughts around how people can literally do that in business, be more certain in an uncertain world?
Yes, I would, for business. I don't know if this is going to appeal to everybody. I really believe
that's the thing, it doesn't have to, though, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I was thinking about the people that were listening for yours. Yeah, I would say for business, if you want to find certainty, it is about aligning with your highest intelligence, your highest truth, your soul, and remembering and understanding that your business is a separate entity unto you. So your business isn't you, it's separate of you, which means it has its own energy, it has its own soul, it has its own thing. So when you create something, you set like out you in a seed, right? So every time you create something, you're setting a seed of intention of what you would like it to be. And just like in, let's use fruit, just like in apple trees, in an apple seed already is the tree, right? You put it into the ground, you put it in the right place, it comes up. You don't suddenly need to go and add the apples to the seed, it's already in there and it comes out. So when you set your business intention, you're like, right, I want to create this business, or I have created this business and this is what I want it to be. It's now on its own. So your job is to nurture it, water it, and allow it to flower or to develop in whatever it is. But your job is not to go in and try and make it an orange tree if you planted an apple tree, because you're really going to bang your head against the wall. So to find certainty is to just think about how and where you started in your business, where you were coming from. So were you coming from a place of that, I need to feed my family, I don't have any money right now, I've just lost my job, I just need an income? Did you come from that space, or were you coming from, this is what I want to do, I know this is right for me, and this is what I want to bring to the world? It's okay whichever space you're coming from, because that's where you are, that's where you were, and that's fine. But you can find a way to, if you're coming from the fear and lack space, to start to move away from that and turn it into understanding about that there is enough. People are going to contradict that, so I'm trying to think of a way I can say it in a way that will make sense, that you understand what I'm trying to say. There's a certain amount of abundance, yes, that each person has, and we all decide how much we want to activate in this lifetime for ourselves. And some people are really struggling and really going through it, but if we go bigger picture, there's a reason for it. Like, I haven't just lived one lifetime, I've lived numerous, and in many of them I have had really tough times and really poor times, etc. But the bigger picture, I'm trying to gain and learn something for my soul, right? So it's not about now. So we all have access to this universal intelligence. It's not like it discriminates and goes, I'm only going to go to females or males or tall people or short people, or, do you know what I mean? It's, everybody has access to it, but we don't all want to tap into it. So those of us who do want to tap into it, once you realize you have access to it, you can understand that nothing's running out. So therefore you don't have to come from that place where you're unsure and you're worried. And when you're making decisions, even if you don't believe in all of that and you just want some certainty, when you're making decisions, just make the decision and go with it. It's going to show you eventually if it's going to work or if it's not. But when you bounce between should I, shouldn't I, it can't manifest through. So you're stuck in like this kind of thought space. You're not stuck in the action space. So if you want to take action, then take action and then learn from it. But if you really want to have kind of that deep certainty, use your universal intelligence that's in you and then step forward in that. And if you align yourself with that intelligence, you know that you're on everything that comes into your life is for your highest good, even if you can't see it at that time. So even if someone stole all your money from your business, it's like, this is for my highest good. What are you trying to teach me? Maybe this business wasn't right for you. Maybe the people that you brought in weren't right for you. Like there's a million things that it could be, but you don't have to worry. But we naturally tend to fall into kind of the worrying, the lack, the stress, because we're not aligned with what is really right for us. Like we all have a chance to have income in this world, and our soul knows a path that it wants to take to create that income, and sometimes we're too far away from our truth. So when we're going down a path that isn't for us, we can still succeed in it because we can push through and we can use all the tools that have been given to us and we can succeed. But will we be succeeding in a way that is serving humanity, or will we just succeeding for ourselves? So the certainty in an uncertain world is this whole world all around us is shifting, right? And there's problems popping up left, right. And, you know, one minute you're in a pandemic and then they're changing the rules and then it's an epidemic. Then actually, no, they don't know what's going on themselves. No offense to them. God bless them. But we get confused with the messages that they send out to us, right? And then we're reacting to them. But if you stay in this is what I'm doing, keep me on my path. I see there's chaos all around me, but this is me on my path. Then where do I need to go next? And then it will be like, okay, amongst that chaos, suddenly over there's a path, you know, take a left. And so it's kind of like walking through maybe woods. We know where you don't want to hit some trees or something. So you just, if you stay with you and you know where you're going, even if everything around you is crazy, you'll be then knowing which direction to go. But when you start to match all of this that's going on around you, you don't have control of that. I cannot control if I'm allowed out of my house tomorrow or if I have to stay indoors for 3 weeks. Like I'm not in parliament, right? I'm not in our government. I'm not sitting in any of it. So I can't control all that. I can't control who's coming to me, who's not coming to me. All I can control is this is what I want to create and this is the direction I'm going in. And so this is what I'm doing. So that is where the certainty comes from for your business, is just have that goal, know where you're going, and don't spend too much of your time focusing on all of that. You need to have some awareness, but you don't need your whole business to be worried about, oh, but this is where the market's going now. I need to set up for that, because you don't know if the market's just going to bottom out and then you're not going to have it, right? So that's where it comes. And that's what I talk about. Like most of my stuff for business is about elevating your consciousness and understanding that your business has its own soul, and then you align yourself with that so you can nurture the business to go where it wants to go, instead of trying to make it be what you think it needs to be, because you've switched from your alignment into like your fear and your lack and your worry. So it's about pulling you back onto the kind of wholeness, completeness, love side, if that makes sense.
So if anyone, I have to ask this question, if anyone wants to connect with you to know more about what you do, what's the best way they can do that?
They can find me. I'm on socials. You can go to my website. I was having one built today and I was having a good old look at it. And then I just pressed like the delete button. I actually wiped off the whole thing. That's quite entertaining. I was like, okay, looks like we start again. It's all good. So I have one that's like half done you can look at. So you just go to, it's my name, HermioneSihukai.com. Or the other way is I'm on social. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. You can just send me a message. And then I'll see it and I'll respond.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So I am curious about this. What for you is a humble servant?
This was a big one that came through to me. That message is really for me. And it was about reminding me that I am not here for me. I'm here for other people. And just like because I've been given a gift, I've been given like a healing gift. So it's not, I use it on myself, but I'm not here for me. I'm here to make sure that I contribute to other people. So for me, being a humble servant of humanity is about checking my ego, coming back into the soul space, and not, because many years ago I was very, very very in my ego. And I would think I was better than people just because from the school I went to, and they would drum it into your head, like, you know, you're in the top 5% in the country. So you'd come out and just be like, move out my way. Don't you know who I am? It's like, you're nobody. It's like, I'm what?
I can't relate to that because that wasn't me. But yep, okay, I've heard it.
No, that's fine. But it was very, like, you did think you were better than people. You did think you were above people. You did actually believe that people were below you. And it took me I had to go through a lot of like just recondition myself to understand that the circumstance someone's in has got nothing to do with the goodness and who they are inside. Yeah. And it was like, it took me ages to really grasp that, like, you could be sleeping on the street, but that doesn't make you less than me. It just means you've been in a set of really crappy situations and circumstances which have led you there. And that took me ages, like, because my surroundings and my environment was all about better. So I mean, I went on and I went and did like ayahuasca. I went and saw some shamans. I did like a whole bunch to get to know myself more and to really like kind of shed more layers of myself. And so it was just about understanding that I'm not any better than anyone else. And actually, in fact, I'm here to help rather than to even be walking around thinking, move out the way, like, here I come, in a negative way, you know?
Yeah.
So that whole sentence is about reminding me that I'm not better. I'm here actually to help, not to be putting people down. So, and the best way I can do that is to be a light, work on myself, but also when I see those opportunities where people need help, need guidance, is to be there. I can't help everybody, but I can do my bit.
Totally agree. All right. So the one question I do ask on the decision table as we're finishing up here, and we're going to end the broadcast soon, but don't you run away. Okay. The question I ask is, what are you taking from our conversation today?
You mentioned like a lot of stuff at the beginning when you were, you know, conversing, and you were just sharing some, I was listening to your points and how you were thinking of things, and then I was just you know, analyzing them for myself and seeing where they fit in my world and what I can recognize with. And I suppose I take away that even though you're in Australia and I'm in the UK, there are certain parts of you that were quite similar to me, like how you described yourself. That's quite eye-opening for me, because I don't usually meet too many people that have similar, or I can understand exactly what I'm saying. Like, as in when I talk about being introverted or switching over, whatever. So it was like, oh, there are other people out there who are similar. That's quite like a big one. And also I would say about when you mentioned about being insular, just to remember to be connected. And I was like, oh, that really struck me. I was like, yeah, I do it, but do I do it well enough? And then I was like, okay, that's something that I will go and make sure I analyze and check. Can I do it better? Can I remember to be even more connected and more open? And and at the very, very beginning, you mentioned about how you used to not share because you just didn't kind of, you know, you just didn't, you kept it back, and then it was like weak. It made you less powerful, you know. And then when you're sharing it, it doesn't hold power over you. It doesn't stop you. And so kind of, it's just little nuggets that you've said, and my brain just, oh, I'll take that, and I'll go mull over it later.
I love that. And honestly, if you ever listen to some of the back decision tables, or the listeners that listen to this, you know, you can hear many of the different stories that I've opened up about on here, depending who's been on here and what the conversation's been about, because at times it's been important for me to go, hey, this is a safe place to talk about it. Yeah. And if we don't talk about it here, where are we talking about it? And, the thing that you were saying just before was, you needed to analyze and think about what I had said. And I think I love the fact that you got that, because I think that's not been something that has been okay to do in conversations. And so unless we've got it all sorted, unless we've got it all right, we don't bring it out, we don't talk about it. Yeah. And then it makes it uncomfortable if we've got it all right or sorted in our heads, but those around us have no idea because it's new to them. And so unless you've got it already and caught it, then you keep quiet, you don't talk about it. You might take it, or I don't even know if you've got it on board because we don't talk about it. And I love the fact that you've got that connected with that, saying, hey, it's okay here for us not to have it all sorted. It's okay for us to have, like you said, converse and go, oh, what am I going to think about? Like, what do I need to think about that? What will I do with that? And I think if we can role model that like we have today, that is a good conversation. So what I'm taking from our conversation is I love that fact. And I'm so visual that when I laugh, because in some ways this is what's happening when I think of COVID right now here in Australia, because we had borders even just closed in states. And so it was very, very sheltered for a long time with our numbers. And then New South Wales opened up, and it went chaotic with the numbers, right? And then Queensland, another state, decided, okay, good. Now that New South Wales is bringing it all out, we should probably open our borders, and now it's everywhere. So I literally walk out into the street, and I don't know if you remember that, like, or seen, movies or shows where they've got those things above their heads and it's got writing on it, or it's got something. And I just go, COVID, not COVID, COVID, not COVID. Like, honestly, and so when you were talking about, someone sad or upset or anything like that, I was like, oh, send blessings, above their head. Send blessings. Give me extra love. I need your support today. And I just thought, imagine walking around going, hey, that person needs extra love. I'm sending you extra love today. And I just thought, if more of us did that, myself included, that would be an awesome thing. So that's what I'm taking from our conversation. And, I had to go into that visual because that's how it cements it in my head. And so when I walk out on those streets, I'm going to be literally seeing these. Support. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sending.
Exactly. It reminded me of a story. One of the things when my husband first met me, he goes, you've got some really weird friends. That's what he would always say. And I kind of, looking back, I did have really weird friends, and weird because everyone was different, because I just connected with all the different people, really. And I remember going to what it was called, it was called TAFE, or Polytechnic or something like that sort of side of it. Or have we lost? That's funny. We're almost finished. Oh, I don't know if anyone else can hear me at the moment. If you can, let me know. Anyway, I'm just going to carry on with it. And so when I was at Polytech or TAFE, sort of in between from school, university, that kind of, I don't even know, business school, that kind of thing, I met an amazing friend who went through a lot of things with me in life. And I will never forget her, because everyone else, and she came up to me years later and said to me, I just got to let you know, everyone else walked by me. You didn't. You connected with me. And that meant the world to me. And I just thought, when she told me those words, that was something that I could do. wherever I am is not walk by if I see someone who needs, maybe, because I thought, wow, maybe she's always on her own, no one's with her, maybe I need to go up and just connect. And that's what I've done in life, is gone, who do I need to connect with? I'm not going to walk by anymore. I'm just going to walk up and say, hey, and just start a conversation. So we've had an amazing conversation, and I don't know where she's gone. I'm not sure even if this is still live, but I want to thank everyone for being here and for those that watch the replay. And I think we've got her coming back, but I'm going to end the live anyway. Much love to you all. Oh no, here she is. I'm going to add her back on. Finishing words are what? Is there anything that you haven't been able to say today and you'd love to say?
Be kind to yourself.
Mm.
It's a journey, and don't beat yourself up if you're listening to this conversation, you're thinking, oh my gosh, those guys have it so sorted. Oh my gosh. No, there's no sorted here. There's no perfection here. This is a work in progress, and be kind to yourself. You're going to mess up, and it's okay. Just pick yourself back up, love yourself a lot, and then carry on. Yeah, that's my message.
Love that. Thank you. I'm going to end the broadcast now. That was awesome.